and welcome to our January 2022, our first roundtable of the new year. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to come this evening. And let's get started with, right. So let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, but what I'd like to point out to everyone is this phrase here. We have a tendency, and in schools especially, that people pretend that there's a comma here. There isn't. It is one phrase. So if we can start instilling that in our youth, it would be awesome. So, Scout salute, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Scout sign. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, and to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. And the outdoor code, please. As an American, I will do my best to be clean in my outdoor manners, to be careful with fire, to be considerate in the outdoors, and to be conservation-minded. Thanks, everyone. For our updates, Greg, do you have council updates for us?
I do. There we are. So this was just announced in this past week that some of the rank and merit badge requirements that were waived during the initial stages of our pandemic are going to be rolled back on the 1st of March. So they mostly have to do with swimming requirements for first and second class, some virtual activities for tenderfoot second and first class, and requirement 9B of the camping merit badge. I did put a URL there to find the COVID-19 FAQs, but a internet search for BSA, COVID, and FAQ would bring these up. They were modified on the 29th of December, and they put little red marks in front of all of the changes that have been updated. With new charters being posted in the coming days for the units that have completed that, a reminder that there are functional roles that are not registered that need to be renewed when the charter does go through. So there are two places this can occur. One is in My.Scouting under Organizational Manager, and it needs to be one of the key 3 members or a delegate that can put people in. You can see my unit here. That I will need to go in and put Sean Hannon in as our unit advancement chair, again, to give him access to some of those tools. The other options are giving people registration inquiry, training information, and YPT information. So those are functional roles. It just gives them people access to new tools. The other place where this may need to happen would be in Scout Book for units that are using that system, and that would be under the individual's profile and under their leadership position. So I didn't get that set up in time to share with you on the screen. Let's see if I can switch to another screen here. I think I have it. So went into the same person's profile, and under his positions and roles, this unit advancement chair is a position that gives him access in Scout Book to some of those tools as well. So often these get canceled out at the end of the charter year and just need to go in and either delete the end date or give the person an additional position. So look for that. I'll have some more information at the next roundtable as well to share with everybody about that. But if you notice that people are losing access to some tools, those are probably the two places that it has occurred. So upcoming events, WOA is not this weekend, but the following weekend up at Moses, returning after taking a month off. And family ice fishing is coming up as well up in Plainfield. Hopefully we'll get this cold weather will stay. We'll have some ice up there for that. So both of those are on the council website calendar. Just a reminder about summer camp, that is up. Reservations are being made. The numbers there at the bottom are from last month, but you know, we're excited that we already are at now about 50% of our camp capacity with reservations taking place. So units can still sign up to reserve their spot, as well as individuals that want to start making provisional reservations or day camp. Some training updates this month. John Willemane will be doing our Trainer's Edge. It's an introduction to tools for trainers. Anyone that would be on wood badge staff, that's a required retrainings, so that's an opportunity for them, but anyone is welcome to come take advantage of that. And it looks at the EDGE method, but also other tools and skills for becoming a trainer, and not just at a council or district level, but even just within your own unit. If you have some older scouts that you think would be interested, they're welcome to take that as well. Our Scoutmaster Outdoor Leadership Training had been scheduled for April 23rd through the 24th. The lead instructor had a conflict come up, so look for new dates for that. Those will be changing, but we have added the Baloo training for our Cub Scout leaders, April 30th through May 1st, and Greg Stolfus, who's here with us this evening, is the course director for that. And Mary Benjamin will have information very soon about this fall's wood badge course. On NOAC for our Horde of the Arrow members, we have a number of people already planning to go, but there are openings for youth and adults. So if you're interested, reach out to Kate Morrissey. She's the adult contingent leader, or anybody else that you see here on the adult list. Some of them are going to support the event itself as opposed to the contingency, but happy to add more people to that this July. And every month, always looking for people to get involved at district committee meetings and our coordinated committee meeting coming up on the 20th as well. The Service Center was closed today for the holiday, but we'll be resuming regular hours on Wednesday. Also, if you're planning to go up to WOA and you want something delivered, you can call ahead, email, make your payments. We'll put the order together and bring it up to WOA for you on the weekend, January 15th. We can always mail stuff out too. And I think that's it for tonight, Ellie.
All right, thank you. Okay. Joshua, do you have anything you would like to share from the commissioner? From our council commissioner?
Just quickly, I would like to thank everybody for all of their efforts to date regarding membership growth, as well as everybody's efforts for rechartering on time. I greatly appreciate that. I know that it comes at a somewhat inopportune time, you know, everything crunched together with the holidays and everything, but every year you seem to make it through it, so I thank you very much. If you have questions, if you're having issues with your recharter and you need assistance, please feel free to reach out to your unit commissioner or to the district commissioners or to myself, and we'd be more than happy to help in whatever you need. Thanks, Ellie.
Okay, thank you. Great. Any district updates from Appalachian Trail? Oh, okay. And General Knox, we don't have anything other than the committee meeting coming up. And Metacomet, anyone from Metacomet? Any?
Really, all we've got is we've got our district committee meeting coming up on Thursday. Planning group is hard at work getting ready for the Klondike. I don't have any information in particular from Mark about the Cub event on the 26th, but I expect the Yukon days will be a go.
Okay, all right. I know there was a question posted within some emails earlier today about the adventures activity coming up for the Cub Scouts. Lynn, you're on board here?
I'm on board.
Do
I
you
got
have
the
an
email.
update for us?
Is it up to me to have it?
I don't know. I wasn't sure if you had received any update.
I did receive the email. I was actually recharging my iPad, so the yo-yo guy, somebody else is going to be paying his fees for him, and I did see Greg's concern along with others.
Mhm.
I don't have a hell of a lot of volunteers. And of course, they're adults. Over the weekend, COVID, I guess, is kind of sky high everywhere.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm all set to go, but I don't want to get anybody sick. So,
Okay.
I
So
don't
it's
know
in
what else
limbo
to
for
say.
now? Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So
Thank you.
there will be updates coming from council if things change.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ellie, I would just add that I'd say at this point, the event is advertised that people can walk in,
Mhm.
but please don't plan to walk in because we may cancel it and we don't know you're walking in. So if you're going to come, even if you don't register and pay, at least let us know so we can communicate and let you know if it gets canceled, please.
Okay, awesome.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Fritz, I know you are doing youth protection training. Every month you want to remind people about things. Anything new that we need reminders on?
Well, this is the time of year where everybody kind of relaxes administratively. They got their recharter done, so they think they're all finished and don't need to deal with anything for 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 months. But this is the time of year when youth protection training starts to expire for people. So especially, I view this as a unit chair responsibility to take a look at your adult roster. Make sure that everyone is up to date with youth protection training, and please start reminding people 2 or 3 months ahead of time that they're going to run out, so they have plenty of time to retake that training. It's absolutely free to take online. So it's good for 2 years, so there's really no excuse to put it off until the last day of the second year, so that you're getting your money's worth. You can take that training anytime, and it's always a great idea to update on these things even every year, because the training is always tweaked. New things are always added. So please stay on top of that. And I also want to take the opportunity to thank the General Knox folks for really going all out and making the effort to recharter. I know some of you had issues with chartering organizations, and we're trying to work through that even up until the last minute. So I know this wasn't an easy year for a number of folks. I appreciate the effort that everybody made to get the job done. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Cheryl, do you have any quick membership information that you need to share?
Just that we're in a new year, the membership drives continue. And now is a great time to consider joining. Take a look at units, contact them through Be a Scout or through any contacts in your community, find out what they're doing, and invite folks into your meetings. The best way to get new members is by an invitation, personal invitation, for leaders and youth to invite family and friends to join with them. And for more information, contact Art Lobdell and Rick Belford, who is the membership vice president.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, and now Let's get to our hot topic for this evening, and Scout Book. Everyone was asked to toss some questions in for Erin to address, and I'm going to turn it over to Erin at this time.
Anybody have any questions? I do have a PowerPoint if anybody wants to look at it. But I think a lot of us are using Scoutbook. Is anyone not using Scoutbook?
Yeah. Erin, I think the big piece is that commissioners, unless they are a part of a unit separately, we have no clue, because we're not a part of Scoutbook and we don't have access to Scoutbook.
Okay. Well, commissioners, would you like to learn about Scoutbook and what we do on it?
I think so. Speaking for myself, I would, because as commissioners, we're usually the front line for questions that we get from everyone.
Sure.
And we get a question about Scoutbook and we go, don't know.
All right. So, So there was a question, and I don't know if that person's here. I mean, how much time do I have? Because I could
about 10 to 15 minutes. How much time do you want?
Okay. Well, let me share my screen, and then I'll quickly go through my PowerPoint, and then I can send it to anyone who would like to, dive into it further, or you can ask me specific questions if anything comes up. But can everybody see it? Okay, good. All right. So this is an older PowerPoint that I did probably a year ago now. I tried to quickly update it, but of course I'm having lots of computer issues, so just bear with me. But Scoutbook is basically a web-based tool that we use for advancements, and advancements can be signed off in real time. So instead of, the paper trail, filling out applications, like now leaders, parents, we have our phones with us. As scouts are finishing things, we can add it immediately, and it can be signed off immediately. There's different permissions on who can sign off what. Every once in a while, a parent can go in and put a rank, put a scout rank in and approve it. But the unit advancement chair can go in and modify those things. But it's great. It's free. It's basically, in the online scrapbook of the Scouts advancement, from Lions all the way up to Eagle. Everything can be put in it: campouts, service hours, hikes. All of that is recorded in Scoutbook, and it really works if everything's put in. I realize some things are in the book, some things are online, and that's where your unit advancement chair can really be instrumental in getting all that organized for everybody. But you can also email and text through Scoutbook, which is really nice, because I know right now I get, Facebook messengers, emails, texts, I've got multiple emails, and it's hard to filter all that and figure out, where it's coming from. But Scoutbook can just disseminate all that. You do have to update your profile in order to receive text messaging, and that's just editing your profile, adding your cell phone and your carrier information. But it really takes 20 seconds to do it. All right, so the Scoutbook tool access, it's basically 3 keys. They have access, and then you can give permissions to certain leaders in your troop or pack. You can go in and edit the permissions. You can allow people just to look. You can allow people to, full control, a little bit of control. If you don't have a Scout Book account, there's lots of tools. I mean, I have it all in this PowerPoint, but you can pretty much Google it, or you can go to Scout Book forum and they can help you get started. And so there's instructions here. This is about, setting up your unit. So this is what it looks like. So you'll go in, you'll log in. It's the same login as your my.scouting.org email address, and you'll go in and you'll see, well, this particular, I have access to packs and troops. So this is what the pack looks like. So you have all your dens organized, and then you can click into them and see all your scouts. This is about adding adult leaders. I don't really like to add anybody. That should be done, council. But I mean, if you have to, the tool is there. Mostly just search, see if they're registered. All right, so this talks about how to, log in for volunteers. And it's owned by BSA. So what's great about that is everything goes in, as soon as you update, everything goes into that BSA central database, and council has access to it. Let me skip through all this stuff because I don't think you're really interested in adding new scouts and moving, but the tools are there. Oh, actually, there was a question. If you're here, somebody couldn't find a scout in Scout Book by searching by the BSA member ID number. If you're here, one of the things that you can do is you can go on that, so either the parent or the unit chair from that troop can go under the member profile, and you can end their membership with their previous troop and then add them to the new troop. I think your issue may be finding that person using the BSA member ID, is that maybe the zip code had changed, maybe the parent had changed an address. It has to be an exact match. But you can, either shoot me a text or a message, and I can help you with that. But this is about the connections. You can add connections to scouts. And this is the same as if, you add a parent, a leader, or a merit badge counselor. And when you connect an adult, they do have access to the Scouts profile. Let me see if I can skip ahead here. Okay, so this is what it looks like at the troop level. All right, so when you do the Scout advancement, you'll click on either a belt loop. So at the Cub Scout level, you would click on the belt loop, and then all the activities that are required for that belt loop are on there. And then individually, the unit advancement chair will go in, or the den leader or a Cub master can go in and sign them off as being completed. Let's see. I'll move my screen here because this is blocking. Okay. So this is what the Scout advancement looks like. This is where it has all the merit badges that in progress or merit badges that have been completed. And now I think my computer's gonna freeze. Lots of computer issues this evening and this week. Yeah, my computer is frozen. But it's just a fantastic tool. I've been using it since 2000, let's see, I don't even know now, 16, 17. As a parent, I was, putting in some things. That was when we were able as parents to do campouts and hiking for our scouts. Now it has to be done by a advancement chair. But it's a great electronic tool, and it's really great because you have your phone with you. You don't have to worry about, we've been having issues with scouts losing their books or books falling apart and then they just throw them away. And then here it's a permanent digital copy. But if you have any other questions, just shoot me an email and I can help you get sorted out.
Thank you so much.
Sure, no problem.
Is there anybody who has any questions for Aaron now?
Aaron, could you just put your email in the chat if possible, or let us know?
Oh yeah, I have it at the end of my my PowerPoint, but it's not skipping over there. But yeah, let me put it in the chat for you.
And Peter, you've got a hand raised.
I have a boatload of questions, quite honestly. As a unit commissioner, you have to understand, I do not have access to Scout Book, number one. I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've been jotting notes through your little presentation. Thank you. So you're covering your advancements, activities, membership. Is there a section, maybe I have been misinformed, or beascout.org, the PIN number, or you go through Scout Book in order to set that up now, or is that still different? I thought it was different. But recently I was told something else.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm not sure. Since I'm not 3Key, when somebody goes on Be a Scout and requests information, I don't get any information from there.
All right. How often do units update their info, approximately? After every activity or membership drive, or
After every activity.
on a regular basis, or
on a regular
variable?
basis. Well, I guess it could depend on the unit. Maybe for us, it's every Tuesday we have a PAC meeting. I'm updating it, and then with our unit advancement chair in the troop, anytime you email him or anytime he receives a blue card, he puts it in immediately.
All right. Do you also track your YPT with your members?
You can, yep. You can track it.
Okay.
So any training, I'm sorry. So any training that an adult will do, you can click on their member profile, or you can run a report. So
okay.
And you wouldn't be able to see that. But when I do run a report, it actually kicks me out to myscouting.org, and then I can look at everybody in the unit who has completed their YPT or it's expired.
Yeah. You know, as a unit commissioner, we are privy to certain reports through BSA that I probably mesh with Scout Book, sort of behind the scenes, I guess. But has anyone ever thought about giving unit commissioners a read-only access to their unit Scout Book? I'm not asking to be nosy and get involved, you know. We have enough on our plate, but sometimes taking a look at going right to the unit, going in for a read-only, can help us do our job a little bit, or try to find out where you are and see if we can be of a greater service to you. That's just the thoughts that I have. And thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate it.
Peter, I'm thinking the read-only access may be something that needs to go through national for them to be able to change it up a little bit so that we can do that.
Oh, I thought Aaron said that they have the ability to do that.
They can do that? Okay.
I can do some adult connections, but they would have to be, I'd have to look into it and see.
Because we would not be a member of your unit, maybe not.
Yeah, because that would.
It was just an afterthought during your presentation. But thank you for it. I appreciate your thoughts.
Aaron, this is Greg. Unit commissioners can be added as an adult leader in Scout Book. So you go to roster, and at the bottom of the adult list, click on I forget if it's add user or add leader, and you'd search their name. You need their email and their BSA member number, and then under troop position or unit position, unit commissioner is a person, is an option. And
Oh,
as long as
perfect.
they're registered, they'll stay there.
Thank you, Greg.
Mind you, it's not my question or intent to want to add, subtract, or do anything other than to occasionally read it so we can do a quick comparison with the unit. So I don't want to have to, I don't want any access, and maybe other commissioners don't want it, but it was just a question that I had. But again, thank you again.
Thank you so much. Any other questions at all? Okay. I don't see any other hands raised. So Greg, could we split to our breakouts, please, for 25 minutes?
So blue and gold. So that is tonight's topic. So what is a blue and gold? Most of us have had our blue and golds, have already, we celebrate them every year. But a little background history. The Cub Scout colors are blue and gold. They do have special meetings, which help Cub Scouts see beyond the fun of Cub Scouts, which is the ultimate goal. But blue stands for truth and spirituality, steadfast, loyal, and the skies above. Our gold colors stand for warmth and sunlight, good cheer, and happiness. The blue and gold banquets are traditionally in Cub Scouts. They celebrate the anniversary of the founding of the BSA on February 8th in 1910. Therefore, usually the blue and golds take place in February, and it's often usually a pack meeting. There are a lot of different themes you can go with for blue and golds. These are just a couple that I found, but if you go on like Pinterest or whatever, you can find like thousands of them. So you can have a Lego theme, which is kind of fun. You kind of do like a Lego building competition. You can do a birthday party, which we've done in the past, and everybody brought in like a cake or a cupcake and decorated, and we had prizes for, who thought the best was decorated, the best tasting. There's a camping one, so you can have really cool, fun activities for camping. There's minions. And if you wanted to kind of tie into this upcoming summer camp theme, you can go with a Western. And you can make most wanted posters, and you could put on the posters everything that the scout has earned. And here's some more ideas for Cub Scout, some games for this. This happens to be the Lego one. So there are a lot of different ideas that you can go with for blue and golds. A lot of it is just being creative. Some people have banquets. They come in, have big sit-down dinners. Maybe not, definitely not last year, but maybe not even this year. There we go. So there's a lot of different things you can do for blue and gold. Last year, because of all the COVID stuff, we did a drive-through. They came in, they picked up all their things, their supplies. And then the week after, we had a birthday celebration. Everybody had their cupcakes and everything like that. So, yeah. Sorry, I am distracted tonight. I just got home. I like to actually open up the floor for everybody to share what you guys have done for blue and golds.
Do a lot of people get guest speakers to come in? I know back what seems like ages ago when I was a Cub Master, we would have some different guest speakers come in, and we had one of the things we did was we had a local person who was had climbed Mount Everest, and he brought in all kinds of different camping gear and his $400 pair of sunglasses that he needed, and started passing those around among the boys. I was like, yeah.
Hi, this is Mary from 1849.
We usually do like the banquet theme to where each year we have our Arrow of Light choose the theme, which we need to learn to maybe limit it to 3 because they've come up with some crazy ideas for a theme. So one year was Pokemon, and what we do is we create a theme all around that for the whole event. So there's I don't want to call it a speech, but I introduce the whole day and kind of keep it in the theme of whatever's chosen. Everyone does a skit, all the groups do a skit. I even have the leaders do skits. We do a presentation to our charter organization, the Moose Lodge, and we're very, very lucky, and they sponsor our dinners as well. And then I do have, if I don't do the presentation myself for Friends of Scouting, I do invite our Friends of Scouting presenters. And I also invite hire, different district representatives to enjoy. And then we also do a special event for Arrow of Light for crossing over during that time as well. So it's kind of a celebration for everybody, all Scouts, as well as Arrow of Light and the founding of Scouting all in one. And we try to make it funny because, I try to think that I'm funny. I've still been for 8 years trying to convince my parents that I'm funny. So I can't guarantee it works, but I try. So that's kind of ours in a nutshell. And we do it on a Sunday. We decorate the hall in that same theme as well. So it's a lot of fun, a lot of work, but a lot of fun.
We had a larger unit in North Carolina, and what we did is we had a big, it wasn't like a catered event, but it was dessert, and the pack would get the meats, and then the families would do sides, and the Arrow of Lights would do a dessert contest. So they would all make some kind of Scouty themed dessert, and then there would be like a judging competition, and then they would receive, like a spoon, for best tasting, and there'd be special prizes. What did you get, Dean? A spatula. There'd be, a couple prizes, but it was basically for the Arrow of Lights for their last hurrah to show off their baking skills.
One year, back when I was a unit commissioner, the unit that I worked with had a blue and gold, and they did a thing with on the theme of Survivor, and they actually voted them out of the pack. And so they extinguished their torches and the whole bit. But then another group, when they did their crossover, they had the Webelos and the Arrow of Light youth come to a weekend camp out. And there was at their campsite a small, very small stream that the boys could easily hop over. But they built a bridge, and the boys literally crossed over that bridge to the troop, and then they burned the bridge. So there's some creative things out there. Another resource, and I know it's not official BSA, but are people familiar with Baloo's Bugle? That was
Yes.
Okay. It's oh, I forgot. It's under the umbrella of a bigger troop thing, but all of those monthly newsletters that they used to do from Baloo's Bugle, and they would sometimes be 60 and 70 pages long, are archived. So if you look up Baloo's Bugle, you can go back years and years and years and find all different kinds of skits, songs, and themes and things. And I would just say, some of the, because things have changed over the years and everything, just kind of make sure that you preview them for gray area kinds of stuff.
The other part of the blue and gold that we do is, along with the theme, the leaders are dressed up in a certain theme. So one year it was around camping, and because we're at the Moose, we did Camp Crazy Moose. So we made them all moose antlers. And so I kind of torture my leaders as well. The kids like to see me do that. Right? It's a rite of passage. I'm sure your leaders enjoy that too. They get a chance to be a kid again.
Especially all the singing.
Yes. Even, and especially when you're not a good singer, right? Though. Speaking
Oh, come
from
on,
my
Mary.
experience, you have a beautiful voice. I don't.
With Cub Scout camp, I used to say, everyone sings. You don't have to sing well, you just have to sing with enthusiasm.
Actually, during one of our first COVID at-home Zoom meetings, when we kind of finished early with my den, and they said, "Can we sing the bubblegum song?" I'm like, "What? You want me to sing?" Okay. We did, and it was just as awful as it is when I'm there, but it was still fun.
You know, blue and golds are an opportunity. Sometimes you get parents who kind of are sitting on the sideline all the time, but when it comes to be blue and gold, you know, a little, gee, you know, a lot of heavy stuff is done, but you really use a hand if you could do this simple little thing, and you kind of hook them in and then reel them into a leadership position.
Here goes Peter fishing again.
Think about how many of you got started. Somebody asked you, somebody hooked you, and they reeled you in. And you loved doing it, you enjoyed doing it, and you continue doing it. Right? Come on.
Right.
Come
Right,
on.
right,
Make
right.
your hands.
Right,
Everybody
right,
hands
right.
up. Show a little spirit. You know, come on. I got that sounding spirit. You know, you got to sing it.
One year we did rock and roll theme, and we spray painted albums as gold records and hung them from the ceiling. The Weeblos built a guitar for their Build It adventure.
Wow.
And we raffled it off also. Everybody got a guitar pick as their payment. So it was a legal raffle. And then one of the younger scouts actually won it. So it was great. They had a blast. And then we had a professional guitarist come in and actually play some tunes on it for us too, before handing it off to the winner.
Nice.
I'll never forget, one of the units did a blue and gold based on Olympics, and they had two of their male leaders towards the end of the presentation to the tune of Chariots of Fire in slow motion running across the floor, and everybody loved it. Aaron, you remember that, Aaron Chevalier, right?
Yep.
I've never forgotten it.
One of the things that's important if you're doing an in-person blue and gold is make sure to invite your unit commissioner, invite your chartered organization rep, invite your institutional head, invite your district commissioner as well, and your district chairperson. Let people, the parents who are there, see that there is support beyond just the unit commissioner, that we are all there to help.
Jay Latore wants you to invite him for FOS. That's an important part of it. Really, think
Mhm.
about it.
I don't know if the ceremonies team from the Order of the Arrow is still up and running or available, but they used to be available to come out and do some ceremonies, either
There-
opening ceremonies or crossovers and things like that too.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Their ceremonies were fantastic. But the ones that we used to use, they're unable to use due to things, changing, but they were fantastic. It made the event so special for the Arrow of Light.
and there's no reason why you can't write your own ceremonies. Just make sure they're in keeping with BSA standards.
Have fun. Make it fun. It's a happy time. Everybody's supposed to be happy at Blue and Gold. Even if it's virtual, you all get to see, oh, what are you eating today? What are you eating? And make sure they take a picture of it, share it.
And if you want to get into things like, sometimes the Blue and Gold will include the history of Cub Scouting or something like that. The other piece is, I know when the Cub Scout Adventures came into play, less focus was put on the Jungle Book. But pull that in. It's a great movie. It's a great resource. Do something that has to do with the jungle and tie it in with the formation and the history of Cub Scouting.
The troop had a red and green banquet similar to Blue and Gold. And they actually had the grandfather of one of the scouts who came, and he was an original charter member going back to 1939, who came to the banquet and was talking to the kids about what scouting was like when he was involved. And they were all ears. Very interesting. And it was just sort of happened off by the cuff, It wasn't overly planned or anything, but it happened and it went over well. When I was a scout, we did it this way.
And within the council, we have someone who does a great job with being bait and pole.
Who?
I can't imagine, Rebecca.
I don't know him too well.
Just reminded me. There's also another person in our council who has a tremendous collection of Cub Scout memorabilia and always ask to, if it, you ask him, I'll bet you if he's in good health, that he might be willing to share some of the things. He's got old uniforms. He's got den mother uniforms, the full jumper, I guess. Is that what you call it, Ellie? You know the one I mean.
Right, it was a dress.
Okay, it was a dress. What do I know? And it had then they had the hat that looked like a
Military
boat,
hat, yep.
like a canoe boat.
Yep.
And he's got all sorts of really neat little things. Carrie Pearson's, right, Ellie?
Yeah, I'm just putting that in chat right now.
Okay. I don't think I have his email, but we could find him.
You can find him.
But have fun. That's really the key thing. The kids remember it. The parents love to see the kids having fun, and they love to see their children, and the grandparents love it to see their grandchildren getting an award or doing a skit or whatever. They love that stuff. And these are only ideas that Ellie and I have probably picked up from being invited to your different blue and golds. We see something different all the time.
Yeah, and the other thing is, if you are chartered by a religious organization, ask for one of those religious
Yeah.
leaders to be the person who gives the invocation,
Yep.
or if you have a meal, have them do the blessing of the food and everything. One of the things that people don't realize is for many of the youth, the chartered organization, if it's a religious institution, is their first contact with some sort of a structured religion. So don't be afraid to make those connections for them as well.
It's good PR, Ellie. It's good PR to bring, invite the people in the charter organization, the institutional head, your COR, and who else, you know? But it's good for them to get a firsthand look at what the units are doing. I've said too much. I'll be quiet now.
We also try to do the mayor and, you know, like the school principals and whatnot as well.
By the way, if you're in Springfield, I'm sorry, Dominic Sarno used to go out to a couple of the units all the time. He loved the Scouts. There are a couple of politicians in on our eastern part of the district who love going to Scout events. You know?
For the AT district, we can get Spitty Pignatelli. He's very. He's always been quite involved out here in the Scouts. Yeah. We have just a little bit left. I just wanted to thank everybody for sharing their ideas and what you guys have done for different blue and golds. What do we have up for next week or next month, Ellie?
Next month, we are live at Moses Scout Reservation on the 19th, which is a WOA day. WOA will be doing the bird count, and our breakout topic, our Cub Scout topic for Roundtable is winter sports. And the Scouts BSA will be doing some winter activities. So pray for snow.
Yes.
We'll be in.
Ellie, can you give me 2 minutes before you close tonight?
Sure,
Or a
Lynn.
minute, actually.
Yep.
Thank
sure.
you.
All right. Cool. There's a lot of things you could do with winter sports even without the snow.
Absolutely.
During the chat, I'll be monitoring the chat for Mike, and also trying to post links as he discusses.
Well, good evening. So I'm going to share a PowerPoint here in a second, but what I wanted to say first is the PowerPoint is pretty much just some notes that I have for discussion, and I would invite everybody to join in with suggestions, questions, experiences as we talk about keeping winter activities safe. So let me just jump in. Okay. So the focus would be for tonight is about winter activity, safety, and to me, more importantly, risk management. I mean, you know, I always find that a lot of stuff, when you think about some of the robust sledding activities and other things that the scouts engage in, border on unsafe anyway, even at the in the best situation. So how can we minimize the risk of any injury or bad outcomes? So when we talk about winter, so many times we jump right to the idea of, winter like this, and the idea that, winter is that frozen period of time, that snow on the ground. But in reality, it's not just about the calendar. When the calendar says it's winter, it's the weather. And, most of us have been around long enough to see that we've had some pretty wild snowstorms in October. And I know as late as May, we've experienced some pretty serious snowstorms. So even when you think about winter, and even some of the best of times, we are off that traditional calendar. It's past the solstice, and we jump into so watch the weather, and especially the wet, cold weather. And I think the last month or so has been a great experience. It doesn't really feel like winter. It's warm one day, it's cool. We're in the 20s, 30s, but the humidity's there. So whenever we're looking at that, think about, what's the weather? So in looking at that, the winter environment that we look at is, it's a function of several factors. Temperature, and it's not always low temperature, but it's a range of temperatures, and humidity. And one of the things that I always look at and consider in this is the combination of humidity and temperature. And I know growing up down in Cape Cod, some of the most uncomfortable weather was always in the 30s, which is relatively warm, but the high humidity, and you end up with a very cold, penetrating, uncomfortable cold. And when we're out with scouts, when they're uncomfortable, then we're looking at some pretty significant conditions to address to keep them smiling as well as safe. Wind is a big issue. We'll talk about this on, a little bit down the presentation, but, wind is a major issue in comfort and being prepared, being properly outfitted so that we have safe conditions that address for the weather, and we'll be talking about that. And of course, the precipitation in the wintertime, and again, through the experiences in the last couple of weeks, we have snow in various configurations. We have wet snow, we have dry snow, we'll have ice pellets, hail, rain, freezing rain, sleet, all of these great weather features that come to us that all impact, especially when we're outside for more than just a day event, but even as a day event. And then looking at the activity level of the scouts, are they being really active? Or are they sitting around? Keep them moving keeps them warm, and standing around a fire doesn't always work for that. So when we plan activities, something that's active, that's going to generate heat, that's going to generate circulation, is going to be a consideration. And the piece that is staying warm starts with understanding how we lose heat. And the four methods of conduction, convection, radiation, and evaporation are key to understanding how to stay warm. Conduction being transfer from us directly to particularly a solid. When we're camping, one of the biggest impacts of conduction is inadequate insulation, sleeping pads, between your sleeping, between you and the ground. You got a cold ground, even without snow, there's a significant difference between your body temperature and the ground. That heat's going to move from warm to cold. So mitigating that, anytime we're out working with equipment, especially metal and other solids, gloves or lack of gloves, conduction comes into play. Convection, it transfers through the air, heat moving away from you, heat rises, circulates, moves away. And then radiation, heat traveling in rays, generally why we seem to feel so much warmer around the fire, because we're absorbing that radiated heat from the fire that, quite honestly, sometimes convection takes away. So even though we have a fire, we're not always necessarily warm. And then the one that gets overlooked a lot is evaporation and the effect of how evaporation really affects us staying warm and avoiding any cold injuries. And if the scouts, if all of us, I guess, really understand that evaporation is taking heat from your body to vaporize your sweat or other liquids, then managing that, really helps. So when we get into the winter especially, and we're out winter camping, scouts are out especially when they're cabin camping, but anytime, I've always found that, as I said, I think a lot of the things we do can be looked at as borderline unsafe, but it's a very manageable risk. But the one that concerns me more than anything is the things that we look at, and how many times have you found yourself, watching scouts careening down a hillside on sleds, see it at Klondike Derbies a lot, and we think to ourselves, well, there's an accident waiting to happen, and we don't do anything about it. So watching that, whether it's scouts dressing, behavior, then, just for us as the adult leaders, and especially, sometimes the older scouts, is looking at it and just remember that, when you see something, if you see something that it's predictable, that could end in a bad way, then it's truly preventable. We just have to act on it at that point. So that's something that's always guided me in a lot of risk management and safety issues, is looking at it and say, what could go wrong here? Or if you see something that, too often we just say, well, that's not going to end well. And it doesn't, because we don't do anything to intervene when it's obvious. So kind of keep that in mind, actually, in all weather. So again, the winter conditions, when we look at, wet conditions and what that does, we'll be talking a little bit about cold injuries in a few minutes, but how temperature, that temperature and wet are gang up, and we end up with some really bad outcomes. Being aware of the ice, snow, packed snow, slippery, lack of good footing or traction device or something. And especially when we have the opportunity, which is a lot of fun, to slide, to glissade down a slope or a trail when we're hiking. So, slip and falls definitely probably accounts for a whole lot. Again, this time of the year, we're looking at conditions where ice hasn't come in yet, but scouts love to go out on the ice and the snow and test thin ice, see what it takes to break it. But mostly keeping an eye on ice. If it's thin, the rule of thumb is generally if it's less than 4 inches, we shouldn't even be on it. But watching conditions, and one of the things on this is that ice thickness is only where you measure it. It can move based on, streams flowing into a pond, springs underneath, around objects like, if there's stumps or something frozen or appears to be frozen in the pond or the lake, many times the ice around that is thin. There's little moats around it that are thin ice that, and you take one step and you're in the water because you've broken through the thin ice, where right next to it is 6 inches of ice. So things to keep in mind. Snow bridges across streams, great place to play. Really exciting to be out on a snow bridge looking down at running water underneath you. But before we let the scouts go out, we've got to be careful and be aware, are they really solid? Snow bridges can be, but they can also be washed away by some of the water, thinned out by warming temperatures, and providing a risky situation and the number of scouts that go out there and run across. The other thing that I've seen, especially if you're hiking, you'll see these situations around streams and other water crossings where people throw a couple of saplings across just to kind of bounce across. It may work for an experienced adult, but it's not going to work with scouts. So before they jump into something like this, do a risk assessment there. Most scouting activities don't involve avalanche risk unless you're really going backcountry. But we have in New England a lot more avalanches and avalanche conditions than we usually think about. We always think about them as being big mountains out west and deep snow. But we actually have a substantial risk of avalanches because of our climate. That the warm temperatures, they create different layers. Snow doesn't adhere to the different freezing layers. So even on a small slope, we could have an avalanche, which may not be a buriable, a risk of burying somebody, but it could create a serious slide down a hillside or over rocks with ice. When you're out looking at, again, conduction and other injuries from cold, all the cookware we use is metal. If it sits out and it's cold, then scouts tend to cook without gloves on. But if you're touching that, especially in the teens and single digits or below zero, touching on cold without gloves on. Fuel in particular is the classic for evaporation and injury that can cause your skin from that rapid evaporation of Coleman fuel. I've seen any number of near misses from cold fuel and stoves flashbang, whether it's propane or liquid fuel. So there's special attention should be given to stove safety in the wintertime, just lighting them and handling them. Backpacking stoves cool off quicker, need priming more. And when they're kind of in between, they really get dangerous for building up fuel and then having a flash fire. So just being aware of that. Winter is cabin camping season, and we all end up cooking inside. The buildings at camp generally have smoke detectors and carbon monoxide alarms. But from experience, I've known any number of my friends that have experienced carbon monoxide poisoning in the winter. When it's cold, the building gets closed up, trying to retain heat with the stove running, not to heat it necessarily, but to cook. But they're trying to save every little bit of heat in that space. And in the end, multiple stoves running for it can be even a short period, the carbon monoxide level goes up, and then the symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning could be there. So as much as you may not want to ventilate a building for the cold, then it's necessary in the wintertime, even to leave windows cracked. Stove burns, again, it's trying to keep warm around the stove or something. There's just a higher risk of burn injuries from being around the flames and the stoves. Another consideration in the winter, especially snowshoes and hiking poles, gear that gets cold, metal gear, and some fiberglass can break just from being exposed and being at those low temperatures, and then you have the risk of an injury. Sanitation, always something we're aware of, but in the wintertime, the whole yellow snow and dehydration, disposal of waste, leave no trace. When everything's frozen, how do you dig a cat hole? So being aware of that, and then exposure to any of the waste that may be bagged up. And because it's cold and there's relatively limited opportunities for warm water, hand washing goes by the wayside. And that, with other food, becomes something of a sanitation and health risk. Food handling, generally, refrigeration is not an issue, but good handling practices and taking care of food is. If we're out tent camping, most of our 3-season tents are going to be okay for our environment. But if there's a heavy snow, we want to be aware of the snow load on the tents that we have. We don't have the heavy duty 4-season mountaineering tents that are windproof, bomb-proof, and all of that. But most of the time we're okay. But if it starts to snow, make sure we clear off the snow buildup on the tents, because especially fiberglass poles will give way with a relatively low snow load. Snow shelters, structures built out of snow. There's that period of time, I know I think it was last winter, there was a scout in New Mexico that was killed in a snow shelter collapse. And that one, I believe, was a result more of the fact that he was alone, a little bit away from the group. I think he was 16 years old. And nobody was watching what he was doing as he's digging out a snow shelter. And the end result was that he died in the snow collapse. Once the snow has firmed up, I've seen a whole patrol try to get on a shelter, and they don't collapse easily, because that in-between time before the snow really sets up hard and becomes secure. So that's something that we have to monitor, any kind of snow shelters. And then the idea, ice and snow buildup, we have our share of ice storms. And when we're out, that being aware of ice buildup, and as that drops off trees, the risk of injury, not just from the ice, but from broken branches. So just being aware of our whole environment. The factors, we pretty much, I think some of these are redundant, but staying dry, we're going to talk about clothing here in a minute. Fatigue, scouts generally get more tired because it takes more energy to move around, and they don't eat enough, and they don't stay dehydrated enough, and don't change clothes enough when they get wet. So in general first aid, we can expect the usual amounts of cuts, bruises, fractures from sledding, but more importantly, the ones that we don't see are the dehydration we're not aware of, it doesn't show up, the cold injuries, especially frost nip, where you get a little freezing on ears and nose, light frostbite from wind exposure. Hypothermia, I worry less about when it's really cold, because everybody's feeling and they're aware of being cold. I worry more about hypothermia when it's 45 degrees and damp. It doesn't feel like winter weather. It doesn't feel like that really cold, but that drains more heat than almost anything else. And then if you have somebody that's injured, there's some special considerations for treating them, and mostly is keeping them warm, keeping them insulated. And that's why if you look at folks that hike in the winter, especially mountaineers, they'll take sleeping pads, sleeping bags with them just for this reason, to get some insulation between an injured person and the ground, to keep them warm, because it's going to take longer time, and even locally here, to get help. And always the idea of working without gloves. Sometimes some things you just can't do with mittens on, and making sure that everybody's hands stay protected and warm. And if it's necessary, then maybe alternate or find a different strategy. But it does, in the wintertime, everything that we do is considered to take longer in the wintertime. It's cold, your mobility slows down. So even doing first aid and camp chores, it's tougher to get some things done. We have to allow more time for it. So I touched on frost nip is the first step. There's many times it comes up with wind. You'll see, they're just the white on cheeks and ears or nose. Frostbite is a little more serious in depth. But the ones that we don't look at is sunburn and snow blindness kind of go together. That the sun reflecting off the snow can cause some serious sunburn. And a good friend of mine, when we were hiking, actually, he was exerting himself, so he was breathing through his mouth, and his mouth was open a lot, and he actually had sunburn on the inside of his mouth from the reflected sun. So being aware of sun protection, even in the winter when you don't really think about it as much, and it does damage eyes, so sunglasses or goggles or something. And we'll talk about dehydration as an issue because we don't feel like we're sweating as much. So we don't drink as much. It's cold water, but it's to be encouraged by all of by everybody there taking regular breaks. And hypothermia is the last end. When I teach wilderness first aid, I present this as a continuum from your normal body temperature, your body, through frost nip is the least serious, to frostbite, more serious. And there's 3 levels of hypothermia from mild to severe and potentially life-threatening. And we progress through that in the same way we do with heat injuries in the summertime. And being aware of the symptoms early on is important. And if you haven't, if you're not aware of it, there's one key to identifying hypothermia. It's generally referred to as the umbles. As people get cold and they start to experience the symptoms, the umbles are grumbles. They're complaining a lot, they're grumbling, umbling, grumbles, mumbles. They're not speaking as clearly, they're slurred. Again, it's cold muscles. And fumbles, the same thing with mobility impairment from cold muscles and inadequate hydration and food. So this is just quickly a look at if you get the wind chill, this is
back, everyone. This is actually some leader forum time, and Lynn Leonard has asked for a few minutes, for a minute or two. So Lynn, we'll turn it over to you.
Hi, good evening, Scout leaders. As you know, we're going to have the elective blast this coming Saturday. Again, I don't have too many volunteers. Dave O'Leary actually is setting up a longer Zoom. I have a Zoom, but it's very short. Thursday night at 7 o'clock. For those who want to volunteer, I'll tell you exactly what's expected of you. Again, it's very, very easy. They're Cub Scouts. I pick kind of the easy things to be done in 50 minutes or so to keep them interactive. All the supplies will be there for you to conduct the fun and experiments and what have you, the activity of the hour. So please contact Dave, and he'll put you down for the Zoom meeting. I'd appreciate any help you can give me. Thank you all, and Happy New Year.
Thanks, Lynn. Anybody else have anything for the leader forum before we do closing?
Ellie, are we planning to do an in-person roundtable next month?
Yes, Matt, that was my announcement before I actually did the closing reading. Next month, Roundtable is not on the first Monday of the month. It is a live event on Saturday the 19th. At WOE, they will be doing the bird count is on the schedule. And then we will be doing Cub Scout breakout will be winter sports, and the Scouts BSA Venturing Sea Scout breakout will be winter activities. So we will see you all at WOW. Matt, we started what, at 2 o'clock last time, 3 o'clock, because WOW ends at 3, correct?
Yeah, I think we started at 2 because it was dark early.
It was dark early and we were doing cooking. We needed to get the fires going. So 3 o'clock will be our start time. We will run from 3 to 4:30 on Saturday, the 19th. And there will be registration online, just like there is for regular roundtables. Okay, Dave, you put a thing in chat. We have some
Ellie.
spots still for Philmont. Yep.
Saturdays, I believe, is the 15th.
For January.
Oh, February, I'm sorry, never
15th,
mind.
But February, it's the 19th.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Mike, when is your Yukon happening?
Now, the Yukon Derby is the February 12th.
Thank you.
It'll be in Ashfield, and the theme is Finding Bigfoot.
Okay.
So, and again, we're in the same boat you are, Lynn. You know, we need about minimum of 20 people to staff all the activities for the day. So it's out on, registration's open on the council website. So with that, we're hoping to get additional staff.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Anybody else?
Ellie, if I can, I was just looking at the chats. I want to mention something that Dave O'Leary just put in. There are still spots for 2 or 3 more older scouts, age 13 above, and adults for the backpacking trip to Philmont Scout Ranch, New Mexico in July. Please contact Kevin Duncan. So if you have youth who would like to go to this, they need to get ready for it. They just can't show up that day the bus leaves. They need to really get ready. It's a totally different environment, and scouts need to really work up to hiking 10 miles a day with a 50-pound pack. So that can be a real fun adventure if you're ready for it, and a disaster if you're not. But there are openings. So if you have older scouts in your troops that would be interested in doing this, please get in touch with Kevin Duncan and find out what they need to do to get ready. The Philmont crew, I'm sure, is having regular meetings and sessions and training and so on. So you don't want to miss out on that if your scouts are interested in going.
Anybody else? Okay. So I'm going to share my screen again.
I had a quick question, Ellie.
Yep.
For Northern Tier, what age is it? 13 and above for Northern Tier?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, the same.
Okay.
I think it's 13 and a half by the day the trip starts. I'm going to send out more information about that, including to you guys. So, so watch for that. But it's something like that, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. And we
Both
can
of
leave.
those experiences are very strenuous, and kids need to really prepare for this. So, 13 is probably as young as you can go. You need to be older than that to deal with the strength that you need to be successful at these outdoor events.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go to closing, but we can keep things open for people to chat and share more if they would like. And now I need to do this. Okay. So these are your Flight 2022 instructions. Good evening and welcome to Flight 2022. We are preparing to take off into the new year. Please make sure your positive attitude and gratitude are secured and locked in the upright position. All self-destruct devices, pity, anger, selfishness, pride, and resentment should be turned off at this time. All negativity, hurt, and discouragement should be put away. Should you lose your positive attitude under pressure during this flight, reach up and pull down prayer. Prayers will automatically be activated by faith. Once your faith is activated, you can assist other passengers who are of little faith. There will be no baggage allowed on this flight. God, our captain, has cleared us for takeoff. Destination, greatness. Wishing you all a new year filled with new hope, new joy, and new beginnings. Stay blessed and have a wonderful 2022.